And we're back. This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here yet again on CCW TV, the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. We're now at the part that we call Last Rants, and you know what Last Rants is. If you don't, listen to me talk about it in some other Last Rants video.
A lot of industry stuff while we were gone.
A lot of industry stuff while we were gone, which was kind of, you know, and here,
apparently people like it when we talk about industry stuff, so...
I guess, because nobody else talks about the industry. And apparently there are some people who work in the industry who really wish that reporters and such would talk about the industry, actually do some real, like,
hard-hitting journalism
about comic books, and oh my god, that was
What's Dan Rather doing nowadays? Let's get that guy in the industry.
Yeah, really.
Help us out with that. Brian Michael Bendis will be quite pleased with that.
Quite pleased. Okay, so what are we talking about? If you haven't been reading what's been going around the internets, the first thing after our last rants from the last session, we talked about the way that comics are perceived, not outside of comics, but by professionals within the industry, saying that they need to make comics more accessible to young readers. And that just suddenly got everybody caring about what creators thought again. You know, it's not just the old, make our comics for us, but, you know, what do you think about them? And then, within the past week or so, Mr. Bendis came out and talked about how...
Well, but this is something that he always does.
He's always done, but he goes...
And no one really gives a shit half the time. But every once in a while, when he says something, he just gets everyone panties in a bunch.
This is Brian Bendis from Robot 6 talking about comics journalism. Blase. No, that's not what I wanted. That's him talking about writers.
No, that's he's talking about writers as in journalism writers. That's what this is about. This isn't about comic book writers.
Oh, I thought it was talking about comic book writers. Oh, okay.
We'll read it again.
And quite a few writers complained to me today that they would write better if they aren't getting paid to do it. Having lived the first 10 years of my career making no money and having lived with artists and writers who have done the same thing, I don't care about that. You either work really hard and really try to make something worthwhile, or you don't. Money has nothing to do with it. If you find a way to make money doing it, fantastic. That I lived for many years under the impression that I was never, ever going to make a dime, and so did a great many of my peers. Money and the quality of your work should have nothing to do with each other. It's just an excuse to fail.
That was a follow-up.
I'm reading that about comics, about writers in general.
But this was a follow-up between this one. No, because I think he's still talking about, in that quote, he's talking about this was a follow-up to this journalism thing. Okay. So he's talking about,
then he goes to say that he thinks that comics as an art form are in fantastic shape. The only things missing, thoughtful, long-form, investigative journalism and critique. All we get nowadays are knee-jerk reviews, and cut-and-paste blogging, which I have no problem with, but if it's all we get on a slow news week like this one, I would love to see some of our better reporters rolling up their sleeves and helping the medium thrive. Even reviews of trade paperbacks and graphic novels seem to have fallen by the wayside, even though the sales are crazy large. See, Brian, that's why you should be watching our show. You'll forgive me, but I think that a snarky pseudo-hip attitude towards...
He has been watching our show.
Yeah, he has been watching... is uninteresting. If you're a cut-and-paste blogger or comics journalist and I just annoyed the shit out of you, prove me wrong.
Now, you do see the coincidence of reading that out and now us talking about it, because this is a video form of cut-and-paste blogging now.
Yeah, pretty much. We're just quoting him. I am enjoying the emails from professionals agreeing with me but not wanting to stir the pot. Cut-and-paste blogging is cut-and-paste from an article from another source and adding a line of comment and signing their name to it. I actually agree with him there.
I agree with him there. So, but you see now, with the other comment following this one, he's talking about writers
writing, in the industry. So first we have Bendis saying
the only thing that's missing from comics, from this industry, the only thing that's missing is thoughtful, long-form investigative journalism and critique. That's the only thing wrong with the fucking industry.
Well, I think he's talking about comics journalism, and
Well, and critique.
I'm of two minds about it. Okay, first, as far as critique goes, that's what we do here. But I'll be honest with you, because you're a comic book vendor. I'm a comic book writer, and I mean, don't get me wrong. We have issues with ethics as well. It's also very difficult for me, and I know there are some folks who watch the show who think that we revel in being negative Nellies about comic books and just ripping on creators. And we spoil their fun, Ben Wonder. You know, we make comics that much less fun for everyone because we say mean things about it. Now, and don't think for a second that there aren't times when I sit here and I go, man, should I really be saying this about this book? Because, I'm just setting myself up for the same type of criticism that I'm, giving another book. So when you guys decide to read my comics, I'll be honest, I fully expect the same type of criticism, myself to be held to the same type of criticism. I don't think I'm by any means above criticism. But when you have Brian Bendis, the number one writer, or Marvel's number one writer, who writes their top-selling books, and he's coming out and he's saying he thinks that there should be better critique and more investigative journalism in comics, my question is, are you serious? Because Chris Niesman of the Around Comics podcast and iFanboy said on Twitter just this past week, too, after all these comments came out, that comic books are kind of like sausage. You might like them, but you might not want to know how they're made. There is a hell of a lot of unsavory stuff that can go into comics being made. And if anything I have learned doing this show and seeing some of the reactions that we get when we make certain critiques, some folks don't want to know about the bad stuff. If long-form investigative journalism is about really kind of like pulling out the nitty-gritty, and let's face it, if you want to hear only about the good stuff about comics, Marvel and DC already offer that stuff. They'll give you your behind-the-scenes looks. They'll give you your creator interviews. They'll do all that stuff for you. But the stuff behind the scenes that might not look so savory, that might not look so flattering, I'm not sure Brian Bendis really wants that.
And can you make money at doing something like that?
No, because comic books in themselves are
maybe
a niche.
That's why. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, because it's a niche.
Yeah.
You have a writer who is making a living off of comics, making decent money now,
right,
complaining to people that they should be doing investigative journalism that probably, it's hard enough to break into the media industry, let alone a niche media industry.
Right.
You're not going to get paid shit. You can't make a living doing that. Why would you put months and months of effort into doing a piece for what?
And you're going to have fanboys vilifying you about one way or another. There's no way you're ever going to make everyone happy. And especially when it comes to... Now, I work in regular media. And I know a lot of the folks who work on covering really the stuff that matters. City Hall, public transportation, the police, all that kind of stuff. And when they pull out stuff that people don't like, it's not like everyone's clapping going, yay, you did it, yay. No, what happens? They end up alienating one half or the other. They either have everybody who works for the offices that they're covering mad at them because they're kind of saying stuff that they'd rather not have said, or they have the folks who read what they're saying mad at them because they're not giving them all the dirt that they want.
And I'm assuming that Brian Michael Bendis only reads maybe blogs or websites that cover comics that below Marvel and DC. Because if there are places on there's Comics Alliance, there is The Beat. There are blogs out there that cover this, industry stuff, inside stuff. They do a good job of doing it. Now, I mean, is it like real investigative, journalism? I mean, are they really getting in there? No, but they're giving you different, and a different outlook from what you're going to get on CBR and Newsarama.
But they're also giving you industry stuff, but they're also giving you, they're being polite about it. Heidi McDonald of The Beat has said a few things that have gotten their panties in a bunch. Does Heidi McDonald get applauded for it, for giving her own point of view? No. But then, that also goes part and parcel with the personalities that you're dealing with. What is it, when you talk about long-form investigative journalism in comics, I wish Brian Bendis would kind of elaborate a little more as to what he's really talking about. Because, again, when things come out that you would consider investigation worthy, Valerie Durazio's experiences at DC Comics, things that she's been very open about and public about, things occasional superhero blog that other sites have reported on as well, that I think would qualify as investigative reporting or journalism. And yet you bring that out and you get everybody pissed off. Nobody wants to hear it. Yeah. So Kristen Eastman, I tend to agree with his point of view that people don't want to know about it.
Well, let's talk about the critique portion of this now. Like, I don't understand where that's coming from, because there's tons of places out there that do reviews. And I'm sorry, but when you to say that he doesn't want to hear any snarky comment. First of all, I don't know what a knee-jerk review is. I don't understand what that is. But like the whole Snark, I'm sorry, but asking me not to attach Snark to a Brian Michael Bendis review, it's like asking me not to breathe. It would fucking kill me. Because if there's a comic out there, that's what the Snark, that's the review. Because it's and I'm talking about his Avengers stuff. Is because it's so shallow and just, so pedestrian, and so, it's like, you really want to take that seriously? Right. You can't take it seriously.
But it's not meant to be taken
we try to take it seriously, and we picked it apart.
It's the Avengers. It's him writing for the mainstream. We already know right now that the Brian Bendis that writes Marvel is a different Bendis than the indie Brian Bendis.
I mean, we do make snarky reviews, but we have also done straight-faced reviews where we just pick apart his books. Is that what he wants? Is that? And I tell you, and I know this for a fact that he doesn't, because I know a few commenters of ours who have taken that Avengers review where we just ripped apart the plot lines and stuff, not really, not saying anything bad per se about Brian Michael Bendis, the man. But Brian Michael Bendis, the writer, the hack sort of thing. People posted links on his Twitter page, on his Twitter feed, links to our review, because maybe they think that he likes to critique. Maybe he wants to see somebody critiquing his work. Those people are now blocked from his Twitter feed. The same people who sent them those videos. Yeah. So, to come out and say that he would like to see critique. No, he doesn't want to hear critique unless you're blowing him, you're kissing his ass, or you're saying anything good about him. And that's why I think that's the only places he reads are CBR and Newsarama.
The Fox News of comics, no.
Well, it kind of is. I mean, that's what I get from that.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really want to see it. And why even come out and say this kind of stuff when you don't really mean it, when you only want to see a certain side of it,
Another thing to understand, too, is when we do this show, mind you, us sitting down and just talking about the plot points A, B, and C, and how the art was rendered on pages 19, 20, and 21, while that might make for a very nice clinical dissection of a comic, it's also fucking boring, I mean, and when you sit down and you read a comic book, is that what you do? Do you sit down and go, well, the protagonist here has motivations that are suspect, and I really do feel that the writer should have considered better clarifying why...
I actually do not think that Thor would have accepted this pizza from Spider-Man, because Thor doesn't eat pizza, because he's a god.
There you go. See... You got to have a little fun with it and inject some personality into it so that people want to watch your freaking videos. And if I think what I'm getting, and now Mr. Bendis, with all due respect, doesn't care for snarky reviews, and yet he doesn't mind being the king of the snark.
Yeah, no
himself.
Shit. That's what. Yeah, I mean, got me right when you were saying that, because that's all he does.
He is snarky, and then it seems to me like
This is the guy who called Wonder Woman a walking STD.
An STD. So if you don't like the snark, my friend, don't dish it out if you can't take it. You know, I don't know. So, as far as what these comments meaning, and I'm going to be straight up, I'm still not clear what he's looking for.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
You know, the first thing about comic book writers, and this is the way I'm understanding it. The first thing about writers telling him they would write better if they weren't getting paid.
I think he's talking about journalism, though.
I think he's talking about comic book writers myself. That's the way I took it, and I agree with him.
If he's talking about comic book writers and they're complaining that they're not getting paid enough, so they're not going to write anything good. Really?
No, I think it's because they're getting paid so much they feel the need to compromise. You know, if you're getting paid a lot, you feel like you need to write to the greatest audience possible. You're right. I'm sorry, the lowest common denominator. You're writing to, you know, and you're writing to a particular base. You're writing to certain fanboys.
But money and the quality of your work should have nothing to do with each other.
It's just an excuse to fail. That's him. And
that is him to a
purely,
T.
No, I'm saying purely on the basis of that statement alone, I agree with him 100%. Mind you, you might disagree with him because you feel he's being hypocritical by what he's saying. Okay,
exactly why I disagree.
But I agree with the intent behind that statement. Whether Brian Bendis is saying that applies to him as well, I don't know. Also, let's face it, we've had this argument before. You can say Avengers sucks, New Avengers sucks. You don't like it because Bendis writes it. Still,
but that's not why I don't like it.
No, I'm just saying. That's the way it's
you're putting
read.
Words in my mouth.
No, I'm saying that is the perception out there. We know that's a perception out there.
Even when we break it down in 20-minute videos.
Even when we break it down in 20-minute videos. Even when we say the reasons why,
and even when we love Scarlet,
and even when we love exactly. And you know what kills me? That Scarlet review hasn't gotten near the views.
Because it's not getting people angry.
It's not getting people angry. It has not gotten near the views. When we praise Bendis, when we say we came to praise him, not to bury him, you know, that review doesn't get near the views that our Avengers reviews and when we rip him. So, Bendis fans out there, if you think we hate him, we don't. And
you're just not watching the video.
Yeah, you're not watching the video. And fuck you very much for really promoting a positive review.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, sidelining there. Bendis himself is an example of writing to the masses with his Avengers books.
He's the epitome of that.
And and I'm sorry, but it's well received. He gets these great reviews on CBR and the others. We talked about this in the Scarlet review. We talked about this in another one. What kind of review does Scarlet get? The book that we think he's actually putting his heart and soul into, that he's not doing for the money. What kind of reviews does that get? What kind of sales has Scarlet done? I have no idea. You know, I know it's not selling Avengers numbers, you know? So to me, it's just maddening how this all relates together. It's maddening to me that someone who's at the head of the line in as far as the industry is advocating something that his fans just frankly don't want.
No, they don't.
They don't want that.
They don't have the attention span for that.
Yeah.
At all, seriously.